Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Patriots Report. My name is Christopher Price, the Boston Globe and bostonglobe.com. Joining me today, this morning, is Blake Rufino from Are You Serious Sports, as well as the Rufino and Joe Show. Blake, you are a guy who has followed Will Campbell over the course of his collegiate career, so you can speak to his performance and his measurables probably a lot better than a lot of us here in New England. So let's start basic. I want to kind of get into some specifics as we go on here, but let's start
Yep.
with a really general scouting report on what kind of guy the Patriots are getting with Will Campbell at number 4 overall.
Chris, I think I would need to start it off in reference to, like we have a recruiting website that we run or that I own and that we run. So it's very LSU centric, right? And so not even covering Will in college, this was a big high school deal too, right? And so I'm not trying to go like way back and tell this elaborate Bayou story, right? But to give the story of Will Campbell, you have to give the story of Ed Orgeron, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that story, to tell you the person that he is, when Ed Orgeron got fired after the Florida game, you ran a national title, you had COVID, he gets fired after Florida. LSU just ran the ball for 350 yards on Florida, and you're like, what is going on? Well, then Ed gets fired. Chris, there was a response from Neville High School where Will Campbell played football, and he goes, and this is from Will, I ain't leaving. Right? Like I'm not leaving. This is my home. This is my place. This is where I'm going. So I think what you saw 2 years ago with the Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, the Brian Thomas Jr., the explosion offensively, that core nucleus outside of Jaden came down because of Will Campbell called all high school recruits that LSU committed in Louisiana and would go house to house. He literally got in his truck, and this is not made up, would go house to house. He had Walker Howard that was the quarterback in that class. He had Malik Neighbors. I think people know who Malik Neighbors is. He had Malik Neighbors over. So many different things happened for Will Campbell's legacy at LSU. Right. And then he's a borderline 5-star, but he is a 5-star. So you're already getting one of the best offensive tackles just in high school football recruiting. So in covering him, Chris, I have to start off with that because when we talk about Will, what I think has gotten missed is when LSU went through its toughest time, he was the centerpiece. Brian Kelly didn't know anything about Louisiana. He knew that we had seafood, crawfish, and a hell of a good time down here in the bayou. What he didn't know, and the first person he went to go see was actually Will because of everything that Will did amongst that. So when you talk to Patriots, or I see like your stuff, Chris, I see just the overall NFL thought on it. I think the biggest thing that got missed was that LSU probably went through the toughest transition in 2 decades, Saban, Les, Ed, Brian. He was the centerpiece. They had 39 scholarship players. And then when he came in, he had to start day one, right? Like he was the dude on day one that had to come in at left tackle. And his first ever rep in college football was against Jared Verse, the rookie of the year. And he gave up a pressure. So I'm like, yeah, this dude's going to – I literally tweeted this, Chris, and you can go find it. Snap one. When he locked down Jared Verse, I literally tweeted, he's a bona fide stud, and I think that, look, we look at the measurables. We talk about arm length, which I'm sure we'll get into. We'll talk about all these different things. Is he a guard? Is he a tackle? We talk about all these things. The one thing that got missed in all of the draft coverage, everything about Will Campbell was when this state, in which we're a prideful state, look, like we're so prideful of, like we hosted another guy on Believe this weekend. Like we take pride in everything that we do. He was the one that put his foot down and said, enough is enough. We're going to take this back. And I think that from a mentality standpoint, so now flipping on to the mentality, when he turns it on, there's nobody better in this draft. I promise you. And you could say, well, Blake's an LSU guy. No. I've seen him go up against NFL Rookies of the Year and Braden Fisk, who was number 2. in that voting. By the way, I have 3 pancakes on film that I could show you on Braden Fisk on down blocks. So whatever that you want to talk about with him, arm length, whatever, I think, Chris, it's the mentality of which he goes to the game in and with, that he doesn't take off a snap that got missed, and what Patriot fans, and I know that Vrabel and them had to have seen that. There's no way that you don't see when you're, I say rebuilding, but when you're building something, that the mentality and culture of what he brings to the Patriots is probably the biggest thing of all.
The one thing that we do know in like a week of the Will Campbell experience up here is the intangibles appear to be off the charts. Like he's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. And look, I get it. Part of it is performative. Just you want to win the hearts and minds of New England fans. But when you go up on the stage after you're taking number 4 overall and say, I'm going to fight, I'm going to die for my quarterback, I'm a quarterback guy. We talked to him right after he was drafted. He said, we asked him, describe your playing style. He says, I play nasty. And then he comes up here and he says, I'm a quarterback guy. I want to get with Drake. I want to get in the room. I want to kind of help build the culture here. Again, the intangibles, at least early on, are off the charts, and kind of echoing what you said, that it feels like this is a guy who understands what he's walking into, understands the job that's ahead. One of the things that really stood out for me was he said he had a conversation week 5 last year with Elliott Wolf after practice, and he said, get me to New England. Now, Elliott kind of downplayed that up here on Friday night, but I'm curious, the mindset of a guy, and I imagine it goes back to some of the stuff that you were talking about before, how he held the LSU program together in a lot of ways. The mindset of someone who wants to come to a team that has won 8 games in 2 years. Only one team, the Carolina Panthers, won fewer games in the last 2 seasons than the Patriots. Kind of expand on that a little bit. Again, the intangibles, where does that come from? Basically, is that just in his DNA? Did that kind of spring up at LSU? Where is that mindset? Where did that mindset for him originate?
I don't know exactly where the mindset necessarily was made. I think, look, his dad's name is Bear. Okay. So you got an understanding that the upbringing for them is a little bit tough. And I'll tell you, I don't mean this in any kind of way, but the state of Louisiana goes through a lot of different economical struggles, right? When gas prices, and I know what this guy talking about, but it's a toughness and blue collar culture that gets built by the 3-4 million people that live here. I think more than a third of people work in oil refinery or something like that. It's very blue collar. So I say that to say, I think the mentality comes from his dad, who, if you, Chris, have a conversation with Big Bear, we're going to work. Like, there is no sickness. There is no days off. And so here's, I think the Wolf comment or the conversation, I think, is that he sees a situation that he's like, this has got to be comfortable to him now, right? Like, look, Chris, I mean, we can have this debate, or people can have the debate. LSU offensively in 2023, Will Campbell did what he had to do to lead his side of the football to be a national title contender. You had the 2 best receivers in the rookie class from a statistical standpoint in Brian Thomas Jr. and in Malik Neighbors. You turn around, you have the Heisman Trophy winner that was the NFC, that got him to the NFC Championship game. What do they all tell you? Like, listen, I've never in my life seen 3 alpha dudes respond to a sophomore or a freshman the way that they responded to him. I think that the culture of the Patriots, and you can speak this to way better than what I can, is that he's been in that situation before and it's comfortable to him, right? Like it's a comfortability in reference to, listen, he doesn't want to go to somewhere that's at the top. He's already built this. And I think when we talk about culture, I want to bring this to a forefront. I talked about the blue collar nature. I've been to Boston. You think Louisiana and Boston's a little bit different? Maybe the accents, maybe the food, but the overall mentality of what makes that place and what makes this place is the same. And I think that's why I led off in this in reference to, listen, you're getting a dude. You're getting a bona fide dude. But I think when he walks in there, he's going to get to work. dudes would miss. I mean, Chris, this is in the weeds, but dudes would miss weightlifting at LSU. Yeah, guess who's knocking on their door right after weights? He's that level of mentality of we have to be better every day. We're gonna get better every day. So again, to the intangibles come second nature to him, in my opinion. He does not play with great technique, which I'm sure we can get to too. Sometimes he does not play with great technique. The problem is that I've seen probably 9 to 11, just thinking about this, 9 to 11 edge rushers that went up against him one-on-one. They don't have a sack. So what happened when he got beat? It's just the IQ and mentality of I will not lose. He's got to be, and me talking to him, like I've had conversations with him, just the overall football IQ is off the charts. Like, hey, like I asked him a couple of years ago, why did you down block on this guy when you knew Jaden was going to pull? He goes, well, I knew that he can get the edge, but if we got a push up front, he could cut it back, which, by the way, Alabama gets beat by, or LSU beats Alabama in 2022. It's the small things that he does that go unrecognized with those intangibles. So look, if you're just drafting the player, you're missing out. You're drafting the dude. You're drafting the leader. You're drafting the culture. And so that I thought it was the best fit of the top 10. And it's easy for me to say that because a guy I've been around. But I don't think that there's any better fit for a head coach, quarterback mentality, and a dude that just is going to go in there. It's the Boston way, I feel like. We're going to go in there and work. We're going to go in there and do what we need to do to be on top.
We do have some pretty good seafood up here. You know, the seafood's a little different, you know, and I've been to Louisiana before. I got you. I feel you right here. But, you know, the seafood, a little we're going to get him a lobster roll, you know, get him a little, right, you know, swordfish. He'll be fine. I want to ask you, let's get into the measurables here, because the big pre-draft narrative and a lot of Patriots fans, the biggest concern when it appeared that Will Campbell was going to be the guy at number 4 was arm length. And I asked him at the combine, I said, look, you know, that's the debate. How do you handle it? He said, you know, go look at the tape. I was never beaten because of my arm length. Mm-hmm. Beaten other ways, you know, other guys beat me other ways, but arm length remains the biggest question about him up here. Was it a thing, quote unquote, at LSU? And if so, when did it start?
I never heard it once until the draft. Not once. Chris, I told you this. I played offensive line my entire life. So we had this debate with an NFL scout, a guy that's on Twitter. And I'm like, hey, can you tell me when an offensive lineman has played? Sorry, I'm away from the mic, but has played here. So everybody listening to the podcast, you got to go watch the visual from Chris. You don't play here. You play inside. You play inside the arm length. Now, could being a little bit longer and a short distance benefit you? Maybe, I guess. But I've never somebody's going to have to go and show me film on the position that I played. Someone's going to have to show me when an offensive or defensive lineman is fully getting extension on every single play. Now, what made guys like Aaron Donald, special was because of that. Guess who has the same arm length as Will Campbell, by the way? Aaron Donald. Did it hurt him? Well, I understand it's different positions. It's about technique, footwork, and placement. When we talk about offensive line play, the reason he doesn't get beat by Jared Verse, the only rep that he got beat was a true freshman in snap 7 when he bull rushed him. He's a true freshman. He's 18. If you're going to use that of the arm length, which that clip was used as the arm length. By the way, he didn't give up the sack. He recovered and pancaked him. So there comes a part in time where I don't understand them. I don't understand that. Like I legitimately don't. What you have a dude that ran one of the best times in the 40. He's an explosive athlete. The footwork is elite. That's where he makes up with it. So when you use speed, it's the footwork. He shields you off. Or if you're going to power over, you can't get inside of him to overpower him because he's so strong. So I would love I look, I'm not trying to defend him because he's one of our dudes, but I don't understand that. Like, I just don't understand how you, like, I feel like it was the Joe Burrow narrative a couple years ago. Oh, he's got small hands. Well, he didn't have small hands when he led Cincinnati to a Super Bowl. So, I mean, like, those are the small things that I think we overanalyze. And here's just me as a person. Turn on the film. I think we have so many people that won't turn on the film. Name a time that maybe he got beat a snap. He gave up 2 sacks and 1,400 snaps. Now, show me where that happened. And by the way, he had a pocket passer last year, and he gave up a sack.
I'm glad you bring that up, because that was one of the things that Vrabel talked about, is that he played in one of the most pass-first offenses in college football the last few years in terms of dropback. So I'm glad you bring that up to kind of add some context to the conversation. So go ahead.
I can name it all for you. Look, they had 525 passing attempts. I know this because I covered the team like the back of my head. They had 612 dropbacks. That is insane. Mm-hmm. To give up, that's less than 0.5%. Like, what again? If he can go up in 2 games against the number 1 and number 2 rookies of the year, is he going to have rookie mistakes? Are guys going to beat him in the NFL? Without a doubt. But you've already seen him go up against the rookie of the year and dominate. Like, dominate. Like, what part of that film did he not dominate in? By the way, that Florida State team led the country, almost broke the record in pressure rate. They almost broke the record in sacks. And LSU didn't give up any. He didn't give up any. Chris, I don't get it. I've never seen an offensive lineman play here. I always see it here or here. You got to be in the interior. Leverage wins. The reason they talk about leverage winning is not necessarily because you're under them. It's because you can get under them and push and then get the extension. I don't get that. I think it's a joke, to be honest with you, because I've played. I played for a long time, and I'd say long time like I was in the NFL. I've never once got full extension on a defensive lineman. Never. Not once. There was no time, and I played a guy in Kevin Hughes who played, like, I think 7 years in the league at left tackle, and he had the longest arm. I mean, his arms went down past his knees, and he still has trouble. So I think at that position, it's a different deal about arm length. Now, could he move the guard? Is he a guard? Have the debate amongst yourself. But I would never put him at guard because his footwork's elite.
Well, I want to ask you this question in the context of maybe some positional versatility, not so much, hey, they're going to move him to guard or they're going to have to move him to guard. Mm-hmm. But did he play at LSU? Did he ever take any snaps at guard or even at center, just messing around? Again, this is not a question about ultimately moving him to guard, but they've had guys here in New England, Logan Mankins, Joe Thuney, who were college left tackles, who moved inside to guard and were really, really good over the course of their careers here in New England at guard. And so I'm just wondering if they were ever in a jam, if Mike Onwenu or Cole Strange or whoever got banged up and they needed to move a guy to guard, does he have the background necessary to be able to play guard at the NFL level, you think?
No, not that I ever saw. Not like, can he play guard? I'm sure he can. Listen, Brian Kelly used to give us, and still does, gives us full practices. So, like, we can be out there the entire time. And, Chris, I'll be honest, no, I've never once, day one when he got out of Big Bear's truck, he was at left tackle. I've never seen, I'm trying to think, I've never seen him at another position. Could he play guard? Yes. I would rather, if you're going to do that, I'd put him at right guard because of the overall power that he has. Left guard, you got to be nimble, man. You got to be moving. But a guy, I would put it that, can he do it? Yes. I just don't want to speak on something that I've never seen, right? Like, I've never seen him play guard. LSU didn't really, they never had to really test him there. They had Emory Jones, who got drafted by Baltimore. He was more of the guard prototype that they would move there. They just always left him at left tackle, and I've never seen a rep with him there. The only time that I remember, Chris, was when he went inside was in high school. they had a little bit of a situation for a game where he got moved inside. And that poor kid. I mean, and they wound up winning the game. I mean, he dominated. They ran the ball, I think, for almost 400 yards that game. I mean, he does in high school and college.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge, he never took a rep.
Yeah, they know, and this kind of goes back to Dante Scarnecchia for the last couple of decades, where they love to have guys with some positional versatility, even guys who play left tackle. Mankins played a couple of games at left tackle when he was here, kind of kicking out from guard. So just under the umbrella of positional versatility, let's call it. That's good to know. Give me the thing that you like the most about him, and I think it might be the intangibles that we talked about off the top. But give me the thing that you most like about him, and then give me the thing that he needs to work on, you think, a little bit to really put together a long career in the National Football League.
Yeah, outside the intangibles, if we're just talking on the field, I think he's got the best footwork in this class along the offensive line. I've never seen him beat footwork-wise, right? Like, I've never seen him beat there. When he did get beat, I've never – and look, we had Andrew Whitworth here. We've had La'el Collins. We've had a lot of really good offensive linemen, Alan Faneca, who wore 66 as well. LSU's produced a lot of really good dudes. I've never seen work like this ever in my life. I mean, I go to offensive line camps. I see his footwork is elite. I think the one thing that I think he needs to work on is that he's got to play with better leverage. I do think he plays a little bit too high because – Chris, I hate to say it like this. He dominated so much that sometimes that he would play beyond his leverage, right? Because he'd be able to play so high and not have good bend that he would just overpower dudes with strength. Like South Carolina had, in my humble opinion, had one of the best front sevens in the country. He played too high there. Didn't matter because he overwhelmed Dylan Stewart. He overwhelmed Kyle Kennard against Will Howard for the Texans. I mean, like that film, good Lord, he destroys Will Howard the entire game. The problem was in a critical third down, he played a little bit too high. And one time on the third down, they got stuffed because of it. I think that his leverage has got to get better. If he works on that, I think he's a complete player. I really do believe that. He's got to get better at working at leverage because you're not going to overpower everybody in the NFL. Right? Like that's just not going to happen. He's got to get the pad level down. He's got to work on that. And he can. I mean, like he's very flexible. I just think that he plays way too high because he could. It's like, Chris, I don't know if you have kids, but I have two rambunctious kids. I mean, like my son's playing sports right now and he gets away with stuff because I don't mean this. And whenever I talk about this about their kids, but I'm always trying to like talk to him about fundamental. And he doesn't do it because he can get away with it. I don't think you can get away with playing as high as he did from a pad level standpoint. But I mean, I'm getting pretty nitpicky because he did overpower everybody. But he's not going to be able to do that in the NFL, and especially in that division. He's got to get that pad level down.
What's the most important thing for New England fans to know about Will Campbell and what he brings to this franchise, what he brings to this team? I know that he had a chance to talk a little bit about some of the off-field stuff that he's done since he was there. I know the history, and maybe you can talk more about it, but behind the number 7 patch, the fact that he got a chance to wear it the last couple of years. But what's the most overriding thing that Patriots fans need to know about this guy as he starts his NFL journey in Foxborough?
From an outsider looking into the Patriots, the way that I see it is that you're going and you're rebuilding into a different era. And I just think the overall mentality as a leader, right? Like whether the kid, I hate to say this because he's a number 4 overall pick, but whether he's a 20-time or 10-time Pro Bowler, 10-time first team, whatever, he's always gonna have that mentality. And I think that I can't write the story of LSU in the last half decade without Will Campbell. And I think that speaks a lot when you talk about everything that they had. You know, like it's so easy to talk about Jaden Daniels. And I love Jaden. But I think even Jaden would tell you can't talk about the success that they've had without 66 or number 7. Look, the number 7 was awarded to him because he was the best player, right? Like he was the best player on the team, and it's not just that he was the best player on the field. I'd say outside of Jaden Daniels, humbly, I don't think he was better than Jaden Daniels, but outside of it was off the field. Listen, look, we've done NIL deals with players. We open up our specific doors to players. Like I feel like I'm a players podcast, like, come on, let's talk about it. Man, there are just so many stories, like even off air, that we could share. Like I told you, one of them, miss lifting weights, be late, see what's going to happen. Like, see, like that. I don't think that like that gets talked about enough. I just think that you're getting a leader. And I guarantee you, I don't know when, like camps start or voluntary, mandatory. I don't know all that. I know one thing's for sure. He's going to be in there working. I guarantee you, if I texted him right now and said, "What are you doing?" I guarantee you he's working. I know that. I know that it would happen. So I think that it's just the overall mentality that he's coming, and he's going to fit the culture of your head coach. Mike Vrabel will never have to say anything to Will about anything other than on-field play, because off-field he'll take care of everything, and that's the mentality that you're getting. I think that anything that the Patriots did, it was the best pick from a culture standpoint and a player standpoint. I'm glad that he's there because it just fits right for him. I feel like it fits right for the Patriots.
Explain to people too, and this is the last thing I want to ask you about it. Explain to people a little bit about the number 7 patch and what that means in the annals of LSU football. Because I think he wore it for two years, if memory serves. And this is something that is awarded to fundamentally the captain. I guess, for lack of a better term, that the best player on the field, the most important player on the field. Tell us a little bit about the history there and how Will was able to be the guy to wear it in back-to-back years.
Yeah, so it's changed a little over the years, but what happened when LSU went on this long stretch of dominance, with them and Alabama, whoever won that game went to a national title and basically won it. LSU defensively, ironically, had elite players in their DB room, like Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. All of these guys that kind of just got passed down. It was the same thing for number 18, where every time LSU won a national title, they would pass this jersey down to the next best player, or 18 being the next team captain. It changed when Brian Kelly got here because they needed something different in reference to they needed, like, hey, man, this is our guy. This is our dude, right? This is the guy when we walk off the bus and everyone notices and recognizes number 7. Oh, that's the best player on the field. Like Tyrann Mathieu, Patrick Peterson. I think of DJ Chark returning that punt against Auburn that basically, I'd hate to say it like this, but basically got LSU and Ed Orgeron to start getting over that hump. I think of just all the greats that wore that number beforehand. And I think that when you talk about number 7, you better come correct. And when you talking to LSU fans about it, because it means like you're going to be the bona fide superstar. You are the dude. And for an offensive lineman to get that, I thought number 1 was, I don't want to say crazy, but again, it just I think when Brian Kelly gave him that patch, what it solidified to everybody in the culture of LSU, to everyone around it, it solidified that what he had done before BK even got there, this is our dude. This is the guy he is the glue that holds everything else together. And quite frankly, outside of Jaden Daniels, and I love Will Campbell, he was the best player on the field. Anybody will tell you that. And the lineage, like, so Chris, I think that if I'm not mistaken, I think you maybe one time you came down to a pro day in Baton Rouge, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for Jaden Daniels last year. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So think about this. When you walk down, and I'm sure for the indoor facility, you walk down that hall.
Yeah.
And you got all of these players that have been All-Americans, NFL Hall of Famers, and you're walking down that hall. They call it the Hall of Fame, right? Like literally because of all the players. You're seeing all of them. Boom, 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 boom. Outside of Joe Burrow at 9 and Jane Daniels at 5, boy, that was a lot of number 7s, wasn't it? Every single one of them, 7. By the way, the hall's probably 100 yards. Okay.
Mhm.
So now he goes on there. By the way, sidebar, that room got blocked off. I think more people's faces are going on that wall, and I think he's going to be on there, right? That's the thing. When you talk about the legends, when you talk about the greats, that number's associated with it, and that's why he got it. And there was nobody on this team the last half decade that deserved that recognition more than he did. Maybe Harold Perkins, if he has a good year, maybe, but that solidifies like, hey, that is the dude of this era. And so it's kind of hard to explain, but that when you walk down that hall and you see all those number sevens, he's a part of that.
Got a few minutes left. I want to ask you one real briefly about another LSU guy the Patriots picked up, fifth rounder Bradyn Swinson, 146 overall. This is an edge rusher. This is an area of need for the Patriots, and we talked about how the way the roster's kind of coming together, he could have an opportunity to make an impact on this team sooner rather than later. Tell us a little bit about him and what he brings to Foxborough as a rookie.
The number one thing, don't let the stats of past years like sway you of what you think of the pick. I think what happened to Bradyn Swinson was some of the injury stuff. I do think the medical, the shoulder thing probably hurt him a little bit. Listen, LSU fired their entire defensive staff after 2023 when they didn't make it to a playoff with that offense. Bradyn Swinson didn't play. If you're an LSU fan, you would have known that people were screaming from the rafters, put in number 4. Put in number 4. And they didn't do it. And it bit them in the rear end. They should have. I think that for me, under Brian Kelly, he's been the best defensive player by far at LSU. I think of just what the impact that he had against Ole Miss, South Carolina, Alabama, all of those teams. He was the one that got the stop. You go back and you look at the Ole Miss game. He was the one that won them the football game defensively. It's not an opinion. It's not like I'm just giving you my thought on it. No, he made the big stops and had the big sack when he needed it. He is a bona fide pass rusher. I think that there's a select guys that were in this draft from just my overall coverage of college football. You know, we do a national college football show. I don't know if there was a better instinctual pass rusher. Now, Chris, I will say this. He's got to get better in the run game. I love Bradyn Swinson. He's a great player. There were times where he got lost and he went into wrong gaps and he didn't play fundamental football. I think that hurt him. I think it's why he fell. You're drafting a guy that's a specialist, and I understand that. But listen, if I'm not mistaken, I think he had right at double-digit tackles for loss. He got up close to double-digit sacks. You know, he would have been a double-digit sack guy if teams didn't keep running the football in LSU. The problem, the reason we didn't have double-digit sacks is because teams just didn't throw the football. The reason they didn't throw the football is because he was there. He was really good. Consistency, I think, would be the big thing for him. He's got to be more consistent. If you're on third down and he's on that edge, he's gonna work for you. And I think that he's a really good edge. Problem is, Chris, I would worry about him in the run game. I just think he's got to get stronger. He's got to get more physical. He's had some shoulder problems. That would be the only thing that I would talk about with him. Very high IQ. I think he had like 5 forced fumbles this year on quarterbacks.
Yeah, that really jumped out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like he won him the game against Ole Miss and South Carolina. Now that I'm thinking about it, I just think in the running game, he's a situational player. He's got to turn into an overall player. But if you need somebody to get after quarterback and third down, you know, there was another LSU player that kind of reminded me of this a little bit. Was Arden Key. You know, I know Arden Key was in Jacksonville a long time. He's been at Titans. He's been around a while. Was with Vrabel in Tennessee. I think that when you look at Arden Key and what Vrabel wants to do defensively on third down, that would be the comp. But Key played a lot better on rundown situations. So I want to make that very clear. I think that he saw a pass rusher that same height, same length, same body weight. I think that would be what he was trying to look for there.
Blake, this has been absolutely dynamite, man. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time, and I hope a lot of
Thank you
New
for
England
having
fans have learned an awful lot about Will Campbell. I'm excited to see him play. The pads don't come on for real until July and August, but there's been a lot of talk about him and what he can bring to this team, both on and off the field, and it's all been good so far. So I
me.
appreciate you giving us a lot of knowledge. Let people know where they can find you on social media and read your stuff.
Yep. AYS Sports or Are You Serious Sports, any platform, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Or Rufino and Joe Show, our national college football show that's really taken off over the last couple of years. You can find us over on the Believe Podcast Network. Just type in Blake. That's all you got to do. BLAKE, and I'm sure we're going to pop up there. But wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe there. We're all over the place. And if you see this ugly face, just sit there and listen. I promise if you get past the yelling, we might say something intuitive.
I love it. I love it. Blake, thanks again, man. Take care, and hopefully we can hook this up again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Y'all have a good one.